Hi, my name is Valery, and today I talk about the short story of England. Before what we know as England, England was a town called Britannia. Britannia was a big extension of land with rich and strong colony. For this, the Romans want to conquist Britannia. So in the century 43 before Christ, the Emperor Claudius in the Julius Caesar sent to conquer Britannia for the extension of the land. Time later started the Age of the Legends. The Age of the Legends is the revolution and the inclusion of the different cultures, the Romans and the Britannia. Start the new intelligences, start the religions, christenings, start the new culture, the society and the mathematics in this society. Then of this, in the century 9 after Christ, start England like a country. So in this time, England was divided in 7 kingdoms. And time later, start the Guillermo conquest in the century 11. This conquest is better known like a battle of Hastings, because in the south part of England, Duke Guillermo II with Norman Britain and Flemish French start a conquest, but at the same the north part start other conquest, the part of the King Harold III. So finally, in September 25 of this year, the King Harold III and the Guillermo II be face to face for a new battle. Finally, the Guillermo II resulted winner. And 1 century later, in the century 12, start the First Dynasty, better known like a House of Leones. This house is like a government of Europe. Is the center for 4 families: the Yorks, the Amigos, the Njos, and the Lancasters. So this house is important because the first king of England descend of this house, and start the first official king of England, King Henry II. King Henry was a character too controversial for the time because he once divided the church and the policies. But in this time, the society think this is a bad idea. So it's important for the invasion, but for the time it's like trash. King Henry was 5 children: John, Richard, Henry, Godofredo, and 1 lady, Isabel. The next to the throne is King Richard, better known like Heart of Lion, because he's a character important for the actuality, because the movie, series, and books is inspired in this character. So in this time, the people loves this king because he was too human with the people. He was too respect and a good king for England. Years later, during the kingdom of Richard, started the First War of the Baron. Basically, it's a social conflict for the differences of the classes to the royalty and the nobles. So with this, King Richard decides to make a document. This document say the respect in the royalty and the nobles is important for the kingdom. And this document is like a first Carta Magna of England. Then of the kingdom of Richard started the kingdom of Isabel. During this time, started a new movement with the new ideas. This movement called the Renaissances. But at the same time, England started the battle of the lands. So this resulted counterproductive because the Renaissances arrived before to the country, so it's counterproductive for the revolution for the culture. One character important of the Renaissances, the England for the world, is Shakespeare. So revolution the culture in the literature. Then of this started the illustration or the century of the lights in the 18th century. This time is basically all new ideas and new culture and new intelligence born in the Renaissances, in the lights in the illustration put in practice. So some inventions important in England for the world in the illustration is the telescope of Galileo Galilei, the bull of Thomas Alva Edison, and the encyclopedic of Dennis Diderot. A time later, starts the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution is like divided the society, because one part of the people thinking this is the finality of the humanity, and the other part believe in the change and the start of the new future with the introduction of the machines. Years later, in 1916, started the First World War. In this war, England don't have a problem with help the other side. England in this war helped with 700,000 men for the army in the war. 24 years started the Second World War in September 3rd or 1939. Anticipating breaking, UK and France declared an ultimatum to Germany. In this document, say if Germany don't remove the army, the other armies in the other country to start a war in territory of Germany. Then the 60s. The 60s is the break the battles of England, because in this time the teenagers, sons and grandsons of the people who are in the battle start to thinking in new ideas, a new revolution for the humanity, because the human needs to see the other humans like the same. So started a movement, this movement called the hippies, and the new ideas like peace and love. This is a controversial in England because this movement started to change the culture, and for example, born the Beatles. 13 years later, started the 90s. The 90s is like a focus of attention of England, because in this time, England started to grow up in the economy, in the fashion, in the culture, in the architecture, and the tourism. So it's important for the actuality of England. And the actuality, England in 2019 started a controversial pandemic, a new virus. This virus is a coronavirus. So with this, the society in England divided in different parts. For example, the people start to scary for the music, and with this, the population start to die. So it's a down for a history of England. Then of this, in 2021, 9th of April, the Prince Philip dies for problems medical. So with this, the Society of England down to a couple weeks, and this like a break for the economy of England. And then of this, in 2022, 8th of September, dies the Queen Elizabeth. With this, the people start to scurry for the new kingdom, because the people don't want the Prince Carlos kingdom England. So England started a blue period and a controversial period for the economy of this country. So in conclusion, I think the history is important, because in the actuality, the people start to fail. The history is like a dish of the world.